Hello everybody, can you guys hear me okay? Just let me know in the comments of the chat. Perfect. Thank you very much. As now Patriot, I believe you are new, so thank you for joining. Alright everybody, let me just move this 1 second, window over here. This goes over here. Alright. Yeah. Perfect. So first and foremost, I sincerely apologize for... Okay, why does it say no data? So first and foremost, I sincerely apologize for scheduling the chat, then rescheduling the chat and going back and forth. What I wanted to do, I put together my Knicks article, put it on Seeking Alpha, but it's not going to get published probably until tomorrow. So what I did was I put a video together earlier today. I rushed it, got it done. It was a miracle that I was actually able to put that together, and it was really good quality too. Got it encoded and started uploading, and then YouTube is having issues with uploading video. But the original idea was we're going to do the video premiere first, and then we're going to go back and do this, and that's when I scheduled this till 10:30. Tried uploading, it didn't work, scheduled it back to 9:35, so we're going to do it now. So once again, thank you for joining. So the big one is obviously after hours, American Outdoor Brands announced that they're going to be splitting the company into two, which is really interesting. I was actually at the post office driving back, and again, alert. Companies splitting into two, divesting, spinning off firearms, and then the outdoor product and accessories. And I first thought that it was going to be Vista, which I really was hoping. And with a lot of the firearms headlines, they'll usually tag all of the tickers. But no, it was American Outdoor Brands, which was a little bit unsurprising. So if you haven't read the full press release yet, and honestly I think this came a little bit out of nowhere, what we're planning on doing is for the second half of 2020, they are planning on separating American Outdoor Brands from Smith Wesson Brands. So Smith Wesson Brands is going to include Smith Wesson, M&P, well, all the regular Smith guns. And then it's going to include Thompson Center and I'm assuming Gemtech suppressors. And then American Outdoor Brands is going to be all the reloading, all the accessories, and then they're like one non-core firearms market item. The reasons that were given, I mean, it's pretty much your standard reasoning. So it would be to let the company structure themselves as they see best fit, so they can take advantage of any opportunities. One of the things that they cite is aligning its external financial resources, and there's actually one item in here regarding insurance, which really struck me a little bit. As far as leadership, what we're planning on doing, so James Debney, he requested of the board of directors to head the American Outdoor Brands, and then Mark Smith was going to be heading up, yes, I don't want to butcher the name, barely sure it's Mark Smith. He was going to be heading up Smith & Wesson. Yep, Mark Smith. And he's currently the president of AOBC's Manufacturing Services Division. So it's going to be really interesting. So I mean, it's going to be basically just splitting up the company. We're not leveraging it up any further, so there's no dilution or anything in that regard. It's literally just splitting the two brands. On the surface, I'm actually quite happy. Number one, and I've written it in previous articles, it's not as bad as Vista. So I guess let's use that as an example first. I'm a big proponent that Vista really should split the business into two, especially when we have like Bell, Giro, Eyewear, they have ski helmets, they have Camp Chef, and then on the other side of it, they have Federal and Spear and all the ammo companies, and then they had Savage. And it seemed like the company was very much structured. And the question really becomes, okay, well, how can you really get any synergies out of it? I mean, especially since you have so many distribution centers, there's nothing happening with it. With American Outdoor Brands, it wasn't as bad, and for the simple reason that at least most of the quote unquote outdoor brands, they're still very much related to firearms. I mean, they didn't have anything out of left field, such as eyewear, ski goggles, things like that. Um, and the other thing was, so I mean, there's the debt issue, which is separate, but the other thing that we have to consider is that the company just invested so much money building out a unified distribution center. So my question is, okay, so they just spent all this money building out a distribution center. What are they planning on doing with it later? I mean, is it still going to serve both of the brands, or are we now going to go and get another distribution center, or are there any that are still not yet closed? And the other thing is, so like Gemtech, for anyone who's followed it, right before Gemtech was taken over, they built out a really big facility. So it is possible they might actually start using that. So I mean, there's a lot of questions as regards to that. Why I believe this has happened and the timing on this is really peculiar. Hey Rupan, so we're talking. You're from Massachusetts. We're talking to one of your locals. So Smith and Wesson is now going to be a separate company. Um, what's peculiar here, and I'm almost losing my train of thought, um, is the timing on this. So on one hand, if you're not familiar, the Supreme Court just basically announced that they're going to be taking up the Remington lawsuit case. And most of the attorney friends that I spoke with, I mean, they don't think it's going to go anywhere, because if that does go through, that basically means that you can start suing the manufacturer for, if you're driving drunk and God forbid you kill somebody, then somebody's going to sue Toyota because you were driving a Toyota. So the ridiculousness that it would open up for that case, I mean, it would be huge. I do think the Supreme Court, I mean, more or less in the conservative aspect, I mean, they are taking up the case just to kind of settle the issue definitively and just basically say, hey, look, the company's not responsible for how you're using it. But, and once again, I mean, it's probably going to drag on for years. So we will definitely see how that progresses. One of the things that I think is happening, and one of the catalysts for the spinoff, well, yes, I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, we live in America, so we can sue for anything. I think if we're looking down the line, it does make sense to kind of have firearms as a separate entity and have the outdoor retail market separately. This way, for example, if Smith and Wesson gets sued, it's not going to drag up the rest. It's not going to drag the rest of the company into it. From the market side, there is definitely a reason to do this. So if anyone's been kind of like following with this over longer term, traditionally the gun companies, they've traded at significantly lower multiples than, say, a pure retail play or an e-commerce play such as outdoor. So going back into the fixed income world, so I'm not sure if there's any of my closed-end fund followers here, but you would basically know with NHF, Next Point Credit Strategies Fund, it was kind of like this conglomerate of private equity and real estate and everything in one closed-end fund. And generally, closed-end funds traded at a significant discount to net asset value, so we were trading at right around 10-15% NAV. Meanwhile, publicly traded REITs, on the other hand, were trading at ridiculous cap rates, which were really, really low. So not even at a discount, they were trading at a premium. So what they did was they spun off the real estate out of that fund, and they did NXRT, and that's gone through the roof. Once again, nothing has changed in that business. It's purely the different multiples that they're playing with. So with American Outdoor Brands, by putting the less risky, more sexy e-commerce growth type stories into a separate entity, I do think they're going to be able to unlock more value on that side of it. The other good part is, I'm not sure if I've shared a story with many other people, but I mean, in the past, I've kind of been critical of management, not necessarily American Outdoors, but definitely Vista, where, and I'm also critical of many analysts because, yes, I mean, these are small caps, but and they do produce widgets, but these widgets don't behave like any other widgets. And any gun person would be able to tell you in 2016 you're a moron if you're investing in gun companies thinking that the 2016 sales are going to continue up. Ask any gun owner, any sane gun owner. But meanwhile, the analyst thought, well, if it went up for the last 3 years, it must mean it must go up in the future anyway. Um, when it comes to management, so all of those high ROIs, they attracted a lot of attention, and basically the people who are coming to manage the companies, they most of the time don't have, they have a lot of widget experience, but they don't have any gun experience. And what I found with dealing with management and dealing with a lot of the companies is there's often battles between the Wall Streeters or the finance people and the actual gun people in the company. And they'll often butt heads, and what you kind of have is, so you have like the gun people who are too proud and they know the gun business, but they don't really know how to make it run more efficiently. And then you have the finance people who absolutely understand the markets and retail and everything about it, but they don't actually understand how the gun business itself works. And there's very little crossover. So James Debney, I mean, he's a brilliant guy. I've met him a number of times. He's really, really awesome. And the funny story was is that at one of the SHOT Show analyst meetings, he's like, "Hey Max, you got to cut me some slack." He's like, "You do know until I became CEO of American Outdoors, I've never owned a gun. I'm just a Brit." And I'm like, "You're absolutely right." So I think by having James Debney lead AOBC, the outdoors one, that's going to end up doing more good for that side of the business, and I think he can unlock a lot of value. And I love what we're doing with e-commerce. We're actually doing a lot of affiliate marketing deals for that side of the business, which is just purely terrific. So like Bog Outdoors, Caldwell, you can go online, you can actually order that stuff. And the interesting part is American Outdoor Brands was able to do it in a couple of months. Meanwhile, Vista still can't put a decent e-commerce site for a lot of people. And I just find that completely ridiculous. And I guess that's why they don't really talk to me or like me that much. Um, so I definitely think there's a lot of really, really good positives with it. On the Smith and Wesson side, I'm not too familiar with Mark Smith, honestly. I don't really know. I haven't followed him too closely. I probably met him over the years, but I just don't have a specific recollection. But once again, it's an iconic brand. There is a lot to love there. I do like that they released one new model. I'm really interested what they're going to do going forward. Um, but what I think we're going to have is, and I think investors absolutely need to be prepared for it, AOBC is definitely going to become a much higher beta stock. Much like we saw years ago when it went from like $2 to 12 and then crashed again. I don't think that there's going to be more consistent sales volume there to kind of help sustain it. And then especially if there is going to be much more political pressures, that's going to be something to watch. But I do think that there's going to be value there. What I'm most interested about, and none of the press releases talk about it yet, but it's definitely going to be a good question to ask on the conference call, is how is the debt going to be separated between the two entities? That is going to be key. Because, I mean, once again, remember with Vista, when ATK spun them off, they threw all that debt on there. I mean, that's the reason why Vista is having issues. So that's going to be, I mean, AOBC doesn't have as much debt issues, and they are paying it down, but there's still going to be debt, so it's going to be interesting how it's going to be split between the two companies. I think logically what really should happen is Smith & Wesson should be free and clear, and the debt that's left over should go on AOBC's balance sheet, considering the debt was used to finance buying a lot of those brands. So something, don't know. Definitely going to be something worth considering. The other aspect as to why, So on one hand, we have AOBC, which is doing pretty decent. On the other hand, we have Vista Outdoor, and I mean, I've warned you guys for the last 3 years that it's a train wreck, and I mean, we are where we are right now. There's still debt issues, and if you can basically see, their leverage ratio is still pretty damn high. So even though we're selling off units, but I mean, their leverage ratio is basically still there, plus we're killing their um, cash flow. Uh, I mean, we're very optimistic. I think, once again, though, I think that a nice buying spree is going to solve all issues, but there's a lot more pressures on the Vista side. I'm really uncertain on that, and I'm kind of leaning towards the more bearish perspective. I think that company really should be split up. What I think might be happening is maybe down the line, you have Smith and Wesson separate, you have AOBC separate. AOBC is going to have a fairly clean balance sheet. We're going to have good brands. I am wondering if there are activist investors in the background who are basically saying, hey, let's start getting the cash in place for when Vista eventually, if they don't right themselves, they are going to be selling a lot more of those iconic brands off. So, I mean, I don't think, if you listen to conference calls, actually, it might have been the last conference call when I asked James Debney, hey, do you guys plan on getting into the ammo business? They flat out said, no, we're not. But what I can see for Vista is we're going to have Camp Chef, Bell, Giro. We're going to have separately the gun business. I'm sorry, not the ammo business. And then all of the RCBS, the Alliant, and all of those other brands to be spun or bought out by AOBC. And I think that would be really, really, really compelling. And I think given enough time, I mean, it might be cheap enough. What do you think? So I see we do have more people in chat, so if you have questions, just write them into the chat. I can't see the comments that you leave on the bottom of the video, but I can definitely see all of the chat. Austin, you asked, I wonder if Vista... Oh, I think this will pop up. Okay. Sorry, Austin. Austin, I apologize. I kicked you out. This is what happens. All right, let me go back into it. Okay, so... I think you're still here. My apologies for muting you in chat. You're timed out for 300 seconds, so 5 minutes. All right, so you asked, I wonder if Vista is a short. It definitely was a short, and I think 2 years ago I wrote the article, buy Ruger, short the rest. That worked out beautifully. Although Seeking Alpha I published it for Marketplace. I couldn't publish it as a regular article because Seeking Alpha didn't think that they wanted a trading type article, but it worked out beautifully. What is Vista trading now at? Yeah, probably. Austin, that's the answer, probably. I mean, the right time to short it would have been basically a couple of years ago when it was still in the 40s or in the high 30s. Once it hit 5, I was like, okay, this is actually, like, they could probably save themselves. I mean, we've pretty much doubled from those lows. But I still do think that there's issues there. There's definitely issues there. What will totally screw that short is further gun control. So at this point, I firmly believe that Trump is going to be reelected fairly easily, because it's not going to be any of the people who are running now, and especially if Bloomberg is running, I don't know whether it would be as a Democrat or as an independent. If Bloomberg runs as an independent, that ruins completely all chances of any Democrat getting elected. Biden is too old, and there's other issues. I don't think Hillary's gonna be serious about it too. So most definitely, Trump is gonna get reelected fairly easily. My main concern is, and if you're looking at like Reddit or any of the gun groups, what you're gonna have is, and I think I actually left a comment and I got hammered for this on Seeking Alpha in the AOBC one, which was that a lot of the gun owners were not concerned about Democrats at this point. What they're concerned about is actually Trump. I need to show this comment. Okay. So Brad wrote, Smith Wesson should be a good lottery pick if a Democrat wins the election. My response was, you don't need to wait for a Democrat. Trump is killing gun rights daily anyway. And there's a reply, Trump is killing gun rights. That's a slanderous lie. So once again, I mean, if somebody's conservative, I mean, like, they're going to support their man anyway. Yes, I did vote for Trump. And actually, I was one of the, like, in the gun community in my group, I was like, yeah, he's going to get elected. He's actually going to be pretty good. Here's the fact. And once again, the difference between investors and gun owners. And if you go ask a gun owner who's in the know, the facts are, Trump has instructed the ATF to get rid of bump stocks. So at first I'm like, okay, I personally am not crazy about bump stocks. I think they're kind of pointless. But it is absolutely infringing on rights, and a lot of people, including companies and individuals, they lost a lot of money when the ATF was instructed, once again by Trump, to get rid of bump stocks. And basically the $200-300 that you spent on a bump stock, it's gone completely. Next, and this has happened, and we're waiting for it to go through, but Trump has ordered the ATF to come up with more legislation for pistol braces. So once again, one of the shootings was caused by a nutty guy with an AR pistol. So ATF is looking at what they can do with pistol braces. That's going to be there. Once again, it has nothing to do with the ATF. It comes straight from the top. Next, Trump is on the record stating he does not like suppressors. So after the shooting in Virginia, Trump was basically, there was a quote with him, better yet, Trump against suppressors. Okay, June 5th, 2019. Okay. His own words. I would thinking about basically a ban on gun silencers. I'd like to think about it. I mean, nobody's talking about silencers very much. I did talk about the bump stock, and we had it banned, and we're looking at that. I'm going to seriously look at it. I don't love the idea of it. The president told Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain, he is absolutely against suppressors. Next. And once again, he's on the record stating that he wants red flag laws. So those are the pure facts. Now, to piss off a lot of people, Obama, even though he sold a lot more guns, Obama actually did more for gun rights than Trump has. So under Obama, during his first term, they passed concealed carry in national parks. Furthermore, he made it legal to travel with firearms aboard an Amtrak. And most of all, he made it easier for individuals to own suppressors by redoing the parts of the NFA where, and he got rid, through legislative action, I believe, he got rid of the requirement for your chief law enforcement officer to sign off on your Form 1s and 4s. Meaning, they made it that you just have to tell your department, your chief law enforcement officer, that you're buying a machine gun, a suppressor, or a short barrel rifle, but you do not need to get their explicit permission in order to do that. So it's notification, and if the police department has any issues with it, then they can kind of go to the ATF. Because one of the issues with that was, and this was exactly the reason why you heard so much about NFA trust or suppressor trust or gun trust, because if you were buying it as a trust or corporation, it was already on a notification basis. You did not need to have a chief law enforcement officer sign off. And the way that, and if you're an individual, if you want to buy it as an individual, you had to get that signature. And they're pure, and this was a political issue where if you lived in a county, so you can be in Pennsylvania, where it's legal to own suppressors, but if you lived in, let's say, Bucks County or Philadelphia, where your chief law enforcement officer was liberal, he would absolutely not sign off on your permission to buy a suppressor. So under Obama, they revamped that, and he got rid of that chief law enforcement officer sign off. So the facts are, there is an expansion of gun rights under Obama, and gun rights were taken away by Trump. So my main concern with this, and a lot of the gun owners, and there are a few here, is that Trump on guns is much like Chris Christie was on guns in New Jersey. It was, his personal opinion didn't really matter, and he supported it because he needed to be, because he's a Republican. However, I have zero doubts that if gun rights and gun control became a bargaining position in terms of, let's say, for example, if Trump can get his border wall or tariffs by throwing gun owners under the bus and coming out with a gun ban or an assault weapons ban, he would absolutely do it. I have very few doubts that he wouldn't. And more gun owners are waking up to that notion. And that's why I think all of that, so even if Trump does get elected for the next term, I think we will actually see gun legislation. And this is why I actually believe it's going to be a pretty decent time to get in the gun investment side of it. So when he first got elected, it was a great time to be a gun owner and a crappy time to be a gun investor. I think in his second term, it's going to be the other way around. I truly believe that it's going to be tough being a gun owner, where we will probably have more red flag laws. There's going to be legislation on certain pistol braces. I don't know about suppressors, because I mean, they're already bad enough. But there's definitely going to be red flag laws, pistol braces, probably universal background checks. And I'm kind of like 30-40% leaning that he will throw some mag limits or some assault weapons ban or something along those lines in order to get his other idealistic goals, such as national security or basically the wall. Because I mean, it's all about the wall, build the wall, drain the swamp. Yep. And if gun owners are thrown under the bus, I think he would do it. And I think kind of like the fact that we had a Second Amendment rally in DC and only like 2,000 people showed up, it just tells you that. So that's my take on that. What questions do you guys have? Okay, is ATF making laws, or we're talking about policy? Rupan, so it's definitely, it's interpretations of existing policies. I think that's basically how they defined it. So when we're looking at the bump stock ban, what they did was they reinterpreted what they said earlier. So the same thing with the pistol braces, we're kind of going back. So with a lot of the pistol braces, the manufacturers, they would send examples to the ATF, and the ATF would basically rule and define whether it actually meets as a pistol brace or not. They're going back, and at least the very rigid ones, so it's like the gearhead works, where there is no rubber strap, they're starting to look with those, because that would be very easy to justify. Okay, well, it's not really a pistol brace, it's sturdy like a stock. So we have that. Alright, what else we have? But now, I mean, overall, if I'm in the investment side of it, I'm pretty interested with AOBC. So the other things we had, so Ruger reported their earnings. Their sales were down. Not surprising, and really it's because of, once again, it's the NICS data. Don't have the chart popped up. I don't have the chart popped up, but it'll be in that article tomorrow. But basically, so the long gun data, so Ruger primarily sells long guns. Long guns for October and September, so but October in particular, so even though October was up versus last year, October 2019 was the second lowest since 1999. Let that sink in. So what we'll try to do is, so I put the video together, the video that I tried to upload. Let's see if we can watch it here.
Everyone, welcome Squad, and welcome
Let me know in the
to
comments
Slav
if you can hear the
I'm
volume.
glad to have you here. Today, we're going to be looking at something a little bit different. One of the things that I covered on our last live stream that you guys totally loved. It's going to be the background check data. And well, since we're not doing a gun review, I don't think I need this. Don't worry, it'll be back. All right, here's the TLDW for those who are too lazy and don't want to watch. The FBI recently released the background check data for the month of October 2019. The adjusted NICS data showed a double-digit increase in the year-over-year background checks, continuing the September
2019 on your end?
Trend driven by new gun control measures and election fears. I finally believe that 2019 should be the jumping off point for future sales and NICS data increases. Today, I wanted to discuss the latest NICS background check data for October and put it in context of what we saw from Ruger and Vista Outdoor earnings results. Last month, we discussed the September data in order to determine whether the year-over-year recovery was sustained, with 2/3 of the reported months in 2019 showing year-over-year increases. We surmised that the election news cycle and gun control narrative was pulling up the regular election fear-based buying from 2020 into 2019. Did October show yet more increases? Yes, it did. Let's look at the data, what it means for investors, and why I finally believe this should be the jumping off point for future increase. For October 2019, the FBI reported a total of 2,393,609 background checks. The headline number is up 306,714 checks, or 14.69% from 2,086,895 reported checks for October 2018. The October data also remained consistent with regular seasonal trends. For those not familiar with firearms, the fall season is marked by the opening of hunting season for popular game. Furthermore, just as we saw with the August and September headline data, the headline October 2019 NICS data was the highest October yet. As typical, we must look deeper into the numbers, as the headline checks include those that are related to concealed carry and ongoing background checks. So let's look at the data that matters, starting with what I believe is a good proxy of new gun owners coming into the market. For October 2019, the FBI reported 516,978 handgun checks. This is up from 460,017 handgun checks in 2018, an increase of 56,961 checks, or 12.38%. In last month's article, I wrote, interestingly, the year-over-year increase for September was lower than August, thus implying that while there was a demand spike, the velocity of growth may be moderating. The October increase was substantial on a percentage basis, but again, it's lower than the initial spikes we saw in August. The good news is, however, that we now have 3 really solid months of increases. The unfortunate part, however, is that despite the increases, the 2019 checks data is still the second lowest in 5 years, not yet reaching the numbers we saw heading into the 2016 elections. Long guns. If I have a big concern for the firearms industry, it's one thing, and will not be at all a surprise to anyone who has regularly followed my NICS articles. That worry is the long gun data. For October 2019, long gun checks increased to 451,337 from 417,788 a year earlier, an increase of 33,549 or 8.03%. Sorry, 8.03%. Once again, it's great to see a bump in the NICS data. Unfortunately, despite the October long gun data being better than 2018, it was the second lowest, not only in the last 5 or even 10 years, but the second lowest since 1999, the earliest published NICS data. Combined, October 2019 saw 1,030,327 background checks as adjusted by my methodology. This is up 101,853 checks, or 10.96% from 928,474 a year ago. While the combined data is not near the peak seen in 2016, the data is certainly off of the 2018 low and is back to more normalized data from 2012, 2013, and 2017. So what does the data tell us? At the very least, 2019 is turning out to be a significantly better year than 2018 from the perspective of transaction volumes. Handgun NICS data is now back in that 5-year average, excluding the 2015 and 2016 fear buying levels. They're further meaningfully above where we were about 10 years ago. The long gun data, while it's better than 2018, continues to get worse. One way to look at this is that while we're seeing new gun owners enter the firearms world, as evident by the handgun data, we are seeing less and less long gun sales. Why? One way we can explain this is that while people are buying handguns, they're not going out and buying yet more shotguns, hunting rifles, or even AR-15s, AK-47s, and other modern sporting rifles. What may actually explain the above results is the recent trend of pistol-braced modern sporting rifles. With these firearms, an AR-15 would not be sold as configured in a rifle or long gun format, but with a shorter rifle in a pistol configuration. As such, we should look at the combined data to get a better idea of the overall health. Bottom line, last month I wrote, without a doubt, these recent increases are really good for the industry, and overall, 2019 will be a positive year to buck the overall Trump slump. The problem is, the fear-based buying binge of 2019 is very different from 2016 and prior years. In my opinion, there are two key differences. First, there is a meaningful excess in production capacity, and there's already an elevated amount of inventory throughout the channels. The second difference is that the distributors and dealers are generally being meaningfully more conservative in terms of bringing on excessive inventory, especially as the number of distributors and many retailers have closed up and or become insolvent. Both of those factors are, for the time being, are maintaining a cap on prices that a dealer can charge and the inventory levels they are willing to bring in. Source, my last article. In the last few weeks, we saw both Ruger and Vista Outdoor report year-over-year declines in sales, despite an increase in the overall NICS data. This further proves that while the consumers are actually out there buying firearms, the distribution buffer did not yet need to be refilled. For gun investors, however, the future looks fairly stable, as with every passing day, even the most ardent gun owners and President Trump supporters are recognizing that his latest stances on firearms have not been of a staunch Second Amendment supporter, but rather of an opportunist who would pass new gun control in exchange for Democrat support on his bigger priorities, such as national security or tariffs. Bottom line, with a stabilization in background check data and a more uncertain future for firearms rights, I firmly believe this could be the jumping off point for future increases. As always, I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to your questions, comments, and our ongoing discussions. If you haven't done so already, I started covering the NICS data in a regular live stream. For more thoughts and color on the health of the firearms industry, do take a look at my last stream linked above. Finally, immediately after the premiere of this video at 9:30 p.m., we're going to have a live stream that was scheduled last minute that's going to be covering the latest news that just came out of manufacturer American Outdoor Brands, which has decided and just announced that they're going to spin off Smith Wesson in the firearms division from the rest of the company. So in this live stream, I'm going to take your questions. We're going to take a look at the announcement. We're going to discuss anything else you have on your mind, including the latest Ruger earnings results, Vista Outdoor earnings results, or anything related to guns. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in our live chat.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. The video actually plays fine by itself, and when it's uploaded to YouTube, it'll be fine. Just running it through the browser, it's a little choppy. All right, so the question. So, what I know about the earnings, what I'm expecting. So I haven't run any specific numbers there yet. I will have to go back and do it. What I do know is that they've been discounting. They've been running a lot of promos. And if you look at like sites such as like Palmetto State Armory and such, they're getting their way with prices. They had NASGW, which is the National Association for Sporting Goods Wholesalers. NASGW, yep. That's the major buying season show that was just in Florida. Two companies that I spoke with there, they basically said it was still deals. The other thing we have to consider is, so I mean, Smith, they are running a lot of rebates. So we have the $50 mail-in rebate on the Shields and the Shields Easy, and including the performance centers. It is picking up a bit, and once again, I mean, it's a really good gun to begin with. And then they just announced the M&P subcompact, which is going to be interesting. Honestly, I expected a brand new model, and we might still get that. So they make good guns. I mean, they make good guns. I guess they're kind of like the Toyota Corolla of the gun world. The guns are good, and they can easily surpass expectations by shoving inventory down distributors' throats. And we're going to encourage that with a lot of rebates. Now, the thing we have to consider about from the product demand side, we do have the Springfield Hellcat, which is kind of like one of the more popular new guns. IWI Masada was also one of the newer guns that's kind of making some inroads. So we're still buying. As I wrote in the video, I mean, as I wrote in the article, which is now in the video, what we don't know is what percentage of the handgun sales are actually AR pistols. And I've reached out to a couple companies, and no one's disclosing those yet. One of them was publicly traded, but they couldn't, or they didn't know. I'm going to try to see if we can get any data from distributors. They would absolutely have it. But what I see, and I'll check some FFLs. But the reason why we kind of bring it up, because Smith, I don't think Smith and Wesson has an M&P 15 pistol. I don't believe they do. And Rupan, if you're still in here, I mean, you know them really, really well. Oh, I already had it up. Yeah, so there we go. Although this, and this are one company. Alright. Browse firearms. So is it pistol or... No, it's not going to be under pistol. Yeah. See, that's like the wacky part as to where do you list an AR-15 pistol. So I'm fairly positive they have the 1522 in a pistol, but nope. They do not. Alright, so as long gun sales are down, that's going to have an impact on them. The other hotness right now in the firearms markets is other firearms, which is basically it's shorter than 20. Let me rephrase that. Its overall length is more than 26 inches. However, so it's not a pistol, but it uses a pistol brace and it has a vertical forward grip. So that's why you can kind of get around some gun laws in New Jersey and Connecticut, and we're trying some of that stuff in California. So those guns are picking up a little bit more. Smith & Wesson is not participating in any of those. I mean, we do have your traditional compliant models, but we don't have any of the new hotness. We also don't have any of the AR-15 pistols. So I expect those sales to be down versus last year. Handguns, I think, is going to be where the bright spot is. So the shields, I mean, we're still selling, and the Shield Performance Center models are actually really nice guns. And I just went to a couple of stores the other day, and I saw plenty of the guns there, and they are selling. I don't think we'll have too much impact from the new subcompact. I think handguns are fine. What I'm really waiting for, and I'll be really happy with, is if Smith does an update to the regular full-size M&P 2.0 pistol. They absolutely... Oh, sorry about that, Greg. They absolutely need to... Let me see if I can raise it. Wrong window. Okay. Raise it up, and I will speak more into the mic. Hopefully that's better. They do need to upgrade the M&P 2.0. Even though, if you think about it, the number one selling handgun in America in 2018 was actually the Taurus G2C pistol. So it's lower priced guns. That's why the Security 9, even though it's not a sexy gun, the Ruger Security 9 sells a lot. I mean, they do really, really good price on it. The Smith & Wessons, they're kind of like in that in-between zone, so they're not super cheap, but they're not quite at the Glock or SIG levels. So they're in between, both for the full-size and the Bodyguard and the Shield pistols. The Shield is a really good gun. The Shield is a really good gun on its own merits. It's just the M&P 2.0, which is the full size, is getting a little stale, even though it's still a good gun. I own a couple of them. Okay. Awesome. So actually, I did not believe. I did actually, just to clarify, and I'm sorry if I misspoke. I asked him. I don't believe we're going to get into the ammo business. If you listen to the earnings call, the Q&A from like last quarter, when I asked them that, they explicitly said, no, we're not looking into the ammo business. I don't think they are. I truly don't believe they are. I don't think they have the appetite. And especially when you're thinking about it, and one of the reasons why this is having so many issues right now is they are getting hurt by a lot of companies getting into the ammo business. So not only do we have more U.S. domestic manufacturing coming online, but we're getting a ton more ammo from Mexico. We're getting ammo from Russia still, a lot of ammo from Russia. We have a couple of European companies as well. So there's plenty of ammo coming in. Fiocchi has a big factory in the United States. I mean, there's plenty of ammo. And then you have specialty ammo, and there's a plethora of other companies. Now, what was the saving grace for Federal was the fact that they had Salt Lake City contract, and they had a ton of business from law enforcement. But even that's going away. So they lost the Salt Lake City contract. I don't remember if it was Remington or Winchester that's going to be operating in right now. And then on the law enforcement side of it, I mean, you have Hornady, which is doing fairly well. So even in the military side, Hornady is doing a lot. So 224 Valkyrie was adopted, and then you have 300 PRC, which was adopted for the extended long-range sniper program. So the ammo business is a very tough market to be in, and if you need any proof of that, just go look at the rebates. Look at the rebates that are happening there. Beyond that, Federal is going to get really smacked by Walmart, and they said it on their earnings call that there is going to be a meaningful impact to that. And most of the inventory already at. So when Walmart said that they're no longer going to carry assault rifle ammo, it wasn't stopping immediately. They just stopped ordering new stuff. So it's been a month or two, but they're still now basically still getting inventory coming in that they had already ordered from the distribution centers, and that's pretty much there and gone. And just most recently, a couple of days ago, they started clearancing out some of the ammo, and it's a lot of SKUs. So it's pretty much most handgun calibers. On top of that, almost anything that could be used or chambered in an AR or an AK. 762 by 39, 762 by 54, all the 223, 556, 308, even like 224 Valkyrie, it's clearanced out and is going to go bye-bye. What's going to be interesting now that basically the ammo cases are going to be half full, I do wonder if Walmart's going to start ordering more hunting or specialty type ammos, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they order from Federal Spear or whether we're going to go more to Hornady or other companies. And the one thing to keep in mind, I mean, Walmart is a huge seller. I mean, Walmart is the #1 retailer of firearms in the United States. They sell a lot of guns. So it's definitely going to have an impact on them. Now, the cool part is, and they got out of it in time, Walmart also sells Savage guns, and we're not going to be doing that anymore. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Vista doesn't have exposure to Savage. So we don't have Academy. It's gonna be so we don't have Academy up here. So even kind of like in our area, so in the Northeast, we had Dick's, which sold ammo, but they're out of it too. So it's going to a lot of smaller FFLs, and they're very, very happy with that. I guess, yeah, in your neck of the woods, Academy is gonna pick up quite a bit of it. So I mean, Cabela's is obviously the big one, and that's a destination store. We do sell a lot of ammo, but many people, honestly, what they're doing is just they're ordering online. So when you think about it, I mean, like, one of the main drivers for Walmart was, and I think it's a disservice, Walmart sold cheap ammo. I mean, they made shooting very reasonable for most people. I mean, they made it fairly cheap for most people. I mean, that's what it is. So like a box of 9mm at Walmart, you can get it for like $7.50 a box. If you go to like any other place or like a smaller FFL or a range, you're easily paying $10 to $15 per box for that same type of ammo. So Walmart had its place. I mean, we sold it. I mean, like, even in my case, if I'm doing like a video or if I'm testing out a gun, and if I don't want to reload or hand load the ammo myself, I'll just go run down to Walmart and buy it, because at least it's going to be reasonable priced. Otherwise, if I'm buying ammo, it's going to be online, and I think in most of the places where you can, people are just going to start buying ammo more proactively per se. So it's not going to be kind of like last minute, let me go run down to Walmart. It's going to be, let me go order it online. And once you go online, it truly becomes whatever the cheapest is. And you have sites like Lucky Gunner, you have Ammo Seek, and you just put it in the calibers and it give you all the ammo in terms of price. Academy and KKR, wasn't Academy actually public? And I guess you have Sportsman Warehouse. I think Sportsman Warehouse is going to do fairly well in terms of picking up some of the sales from Walmart. It's going to be interesting. Okay. Yeah, I was fairly positive there's like Academy or there's like somebody else, but one of them was public, or Academy was public and then they went private again. So we'll have to take a look. But yeah, so basically, well, we're already coming up to an hour, so I do want to wrap it up. But those are pretty much my thoughts. Any other questions that I can address? Otherwise, should be an article tomorrow, and that video that we streamed is going to be separately. Thank you, Austin. Really glad you came on. I'm assuming we'll see an AOBC article from you soon. All right. So like I said, I mean, I finished the next one. I'm gonna do Ruger and Vista, and then we'll do AOBC. They won't publish you? Okay, you have to share with that. So I was planning on writing the next article yesterday, but anytime I write later in the evening or at night, most of the time, depending on the editors, they will kick back my article because I will have. I'm not going to say I'm going to go on the tangent, but I get passionate about things. And I think the last 2 or 3 Knicks articles, they did come back, and I had to modify them a couple of times, but now I kind of have an understanding with the one of the editors who covers the Knicks articles and basically the firearms tickers. So she kind of, instead of just going back for comments, she'll kind of like remove what it is. She has my permission to. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of times I really went on a tangent and I went off on Democrats, called them gun grabbers, and a couple of things like that. Yeah, but no. So like I try to keep it natural. That's interesting. Looks. I mean, I truly most of the time I have not had issues, but I mean, there are a couple of times where the articles do get kicked back for some. I will read your blog post on essay. And why don't you put a link in here so when people are watching, because this will be on replay. So put a link and then so people can find it as well. And I probably should do that too. I'll include the link in there too. So for my gun people that know me from YouTube, I do cover the gun industry and fixed income on seekingalpha.com. I'll include a link in the description. I'm not just a Slav who wears Adidas, I promise. And Austin is a fellow contributor. All right. So that brings us to exactly... no, we have 3 more minutes. If there's any other questions, let me just go through. And... oh, Greg, so you were mentioning about the MNP 15. Wait, we have 2 Gregs here. So the MNP 15... well, the MNP 1522 is actually good on its own merits. The MNP 15 Sport is actually a really good gun for the money. So if you're looking at the lower end if you're looking at the lower end ARs, the MNP 15 Sport is a really good gun. The barrels are pretty good, they're fairly accurate, and most of the components are actually fine. Triggers are okay. I mean, they're all going to be mil-spec triggers, so I mean, you can change about anyway. But I mean, I've played with $1,500, $2,000 ARs, and a mil-spec trigger is a mil-spec trigger. I mean, you're going to throw in a Geisley or Timney or whatever your preference is. Mine is Geisley triggers. You're going to make those upgrades anyway. The barrels are fine. I mean, other people are going to kind of go with palmettos. But no, I honestly have absolutely 0 issues with the MNP 15s from Smith Wesson. Now, the regular, MNP 15 Sport as a lower end gun. The MNP 15 is a fine gun. I think it's going to be a little bit more crowded space up there. The only issues we really had was the MNP 1522, which is a 22 long rifle version of the AR. And, I mean, they've been producing it for about 10 years now or more. There were 2 main issues with the gun. When they first came out, there was an issue with the barrels. They fixed that. And then more recently, there was a batch where the bolt face was slightly off. And they took care of that as well. And those are really, really good values as well. But once again, though, I mean, circling back to Smith & Wesson, if they do surprise in the upside, this will be why. They're packaging all of this stuff. So, I mean, they're taking things from most of their divisions. They're packaging it together and they're making it work. So they'll package a Smith & Wesson gun with optics from Crimson Trace. So when they do the spin-off, that's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with that. So the costs are probably going to go up on their own end. And I don't think they're going to be able to get as much money. But for the time being, I think they're going to be hitting it out of the ballpark with these type of deals. So it's going to probably raise the average selling price. I'm not sure on the unit side of it, but I think the ASPs are going to go up. And you got it. They bundled their way. So even look at this. Whoa, this is cool. They're packaging an M&P flashlight and Smith Wesson knife, the gun in a case. That's cool. And I've seen a couple of these type of kits at the local range. Then you have these kits. So with the locking case, once again, Smith & Wesson, Crimson Trace, Lockdown. I guess it's their own brand. They do that. And then, so they started partnering. Okay, vertical foregrips, basically the Crimson Trace flashlight and a case. And the thing to keep in mind is all of this, basically, all of those extras, there's stupid high margins on those. Stupid high margins. Yep, Crimson Trace. It should be a Crimson Trace scope. Yeah, Caldwell bipod. And a scope. So, that, if they're going to beat, that's how they're going to do it. And let's say, once again, when you're going to the store, and particularly when you're trying to compete with others, well, here's one SKU where you have the gun with a scope and a bipod, everything you need to get started, minus the ammo. So that's what we have. It'll be interesting. I definitely think the conference call is going to be interesting. And I do have to circle back. I mean, one of the things I totally forgot to mention, I did get a couple of calls from activist investors asking what I thought about Smith & Wesson. I don't think it's them that kind of took the position, but it's there. All right, guys. So once again, thank you for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're one of my Seeking Alpha subscribers, just make sure to hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and share it with your friends if you found value in this video. And so what we're planning on doing is, so once a month, when we have the NICS data, I will do these. It seems like sometimes it's easier for me to explain myself to the Seeking Alpha audience, and there's a lot of people on the YouTube side who love gun content that want to have a better understanding of the gun business side of it. So I think it bridges the gap very nicely. So once again, thank you very much. Keep on squatting. I'll see you guys next time.